All right, good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us tonight. My name is Hannah Griffiths. I am the Citizen Science and Education Coordinator for Missouri Stream Team. And tonight we're going to be talking about how Missouri Stream Team volunteers can get some free trees. And Mike Fione is joining us from the Georgia White State Forest Nursery, and he will be covering how to care for those trees, I think. We'll find out for sure what he's covering. But we are going to go ahead and start with Mike's presentation, and then I will give a presentation on the new tree ordering process for this year, and then we will open it up for a question and answer session at the end. So I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to Mike.
All right. Thank you very much, and thank you guys for joining us tonight. So part of this is kind of how to order them, how to store the trees, and then also how to plant the trees. The big thing about planting these trees, of course, we want to take care of the streams. We want to prevent erosion. We want to kind of cool off some of these hotter areas for the fish habitat and so forth. And all that depends on if these trees survive. So we want to do the best that we can, and some of it entails doing some ground prep this fall before you get ready for next spring for planting. So kind of welcome to the Georgia White State Forest Nursery, and it says the cradle of Missouri's forest. We actually have been here for over 90 years. It was actually started by the U.S. Forest Service. The whole idea was to reforest the Ozark Hills. Back in the late 1800s, early 1900s, when the westward expansion was going on, the majority of all the oaks were cut for ties for the railroad to get out west. Once they got out there, they realized they needed lumber for building, and they came back. We had 2 and 3 foot diameter pine trees that were perfect for lumber, for carving, and so forth. And so the majority of all those were cut and hauled out west. When the foresters saw the devastation that was going on, the erosion, the harsh conditions now that had taken place, and they knew the pines that were native, shortleaf pine, would grow in those conditions and would take off and do well. So that's why they commissioned a young forester by the name of George White to find this location and then actually get the nursery started. All right, if you want to hit the next slide, please. So the original nursery sat on 40 acres. That's the very center there highlighted in yellow. So that was started in 1935 when the first 40 acres was purchased. In there was 6 planting sites. And since they were growing nothing but shortleaf pine, it didn't take a lot of room to grow that. And 15 acres worth of these 4-foot wide beds, they could actually grow 15 million shortleaf pine every year. This was done by the work of the CCCs, which is the Civilian Conservation Corps, and then the WPA, the Work Project Administration. And this work went on until the beginning of World War II. At that point, the majority of the men that were currently in the CCC camps went off to serve in the war, and many of them became officers. They closed the nursery down during that time period. And then after the war, they tried to reopen it. When they tried to do that, they realized with the limited manpower, limited funds, that they weren't going to be able to do it. So they were going to shut down the nursery. Well, at this time, MDC had their first state forester. His name just happened to be George White, the same George White that founded this nursery, and he didn't want to see it closed. So MDC worked out a deal with the Forest Service that for the next 27 years, they owned the nursery, but we operated it in exchange for some shortleaf pine seedlings that we provided to them. Over the next 27 years, we bought up all the ground around that 40-acre tract, and we expanded the nursery from basically the 40 acres in size to now the 100-acre production site. The entire George White conservation area is 750 acres, with 100 of that being in the nursery production. So we now have 22 planting blocks. We went from 1 well to 3, and now we grow approximately 60 to 65 different species of trees and shrubs. We have reduced that due to budget restraints and the administration wanting us to kind of cut back on some of the species that we grow here. Next slide. So this is an aerial view of the nursery that we see it. That red, of course, is the boundary, and you can see the 22 planting blocks that we currently have. In those, we give about half those blocks a chance to rest every other year. So we utilize about 25 acres worth of the 4-foot wide beds that we actually plant in every year. Next slide. Now, part of the things, of course, we give you guys the free seedlings for the stream team, but part of the thing is you can also help us. So every year, because without the seed, we don't have a nursery. We send out a seed buying list across the state to all the MDC regional offices, and they're actually providing a service for us to actually buy seed from the general public. The majority of our seed does come from the general public. Bring in the fruit like you see here. The red and yellow is the wild plum. The greenish color is the pawpaw. Down on the racks is hazelnut, and then the other picture with the horse and buggy is actually walnut. Now, the only place we buy walnut is here at the nursery just because of the size of it. But that wild plum, we buy everything in the fruit stage. That wild plum takes about 6,000 pounds of fruit to get down to about 300 to 400 pounds of seed that we plant in 1 year's time. So it takes a lot of fruit, a lot of seed to run the nursery, especially when you're doing 65 to 70 different species of trees and shrubs. So if you have a chance to go out and collect some seed, or the fruit rather, bring into the local buying stations, you can actually make a little bit of money and help the nursery out at the same time. Next slide. And this is the buying list. Now, this is the list that we sent out this year. This year, it's only the one page because, again, of the reduced money we have for our seed buying this year. Normally, it's about 2 pages long, but it's going to have in here the pound that we're paying for the fruit. So the service berry, which it's already passed, that'd be if you pick the actual berries and brought them to a buying station, we're going to pay you per pound. Same with black cherry and the plum and so forth. So that's, again, check with your local regional offices to get this list because it does vary a little bit from like northern Missouri to southern Missouri. Next slide. So of course, the stream bank state restoration is what you guys are really interested in. We want to have that shade on the stream to help the fish habitat. We want to help the erosion control, and then just have it towards more recreational pleasing for folks to use. Next slide. And if we can play this is going to tell you a little bit about ordering seedlings and actually kind of storing them and getting them ready for planting. So here at this nursery, we have grown from its early days of growing nothing but shortleaf pine to now having approximately 70 different species of trees and shrubs that we grow every year. That does depend on if we get the seeds in or not. We start planting in the fall of the year. Probably 2/3 of our seedlings are planted in the fall, and then the other third is planted in the spring. When do we get time to ship your seedlings? You choose the month and the week that you want it. We ask that you give us a 2-week notice if you need to make any changes. The reason for that is, in our peak season, we're doing 2,000 to 3,000 packages per week. It takes some time to get those tags printed off, get them organized into the cooler to get them ready for shipping the following week. So we need 2 weeks notice. So that tag then goes into our cooler. We have people in there that are going around. They will walk up to 6 miles a day. The cooler is wet, it's a little bit muddy, it stays about 34 degrees. It's like a cave in there, it's pretty cool. But the seedlings are completely dormant. We wait till they're completely dormant when they lift them, and they are stored bare root on racks. So we have to keep the roots moist, because if you get dry roots, you've got a dead seedling. So once they get that tag, your packing slip, they're going to go around, they're going to fill that out. It may be 1 species on that, maybe 5. They'll lay those on a conveyor belt, put your tag with that, check at that point. It goes out the window to the folks that are actually baling up in the paper that your seedlings will come in. From there, then, when they package them in those papers, they're going to lay them out, they're going to put some sphagnum moss with it, and then bind them and ship them out to you. When you get your seedlings, they're going to come to you wrapped in this waterproof paper. New this year, they're also going to be in boxes. So when you get these, take them out of the box, try to store them upright if you can. That's going to keep the moisture down here at the roots. When they leave the nursery, they do have some sphagnum moss and some moisture to keep the roots moist. They will actually keep in this package as is for up to 2 weeks. The main thing, try to keep them in a cool, dark place like a basement, a garage, a root cellar. If you have a walk-in cooler or a spare refrigerator you can put these in, perfect. These are actually stored in our facility at 34 degrees in the cooler. If you can't get these planted after 2 weeks, maybe it's going to be 3, just open the package up, check the roots, make sure they have enough moisture, If they are a little bit dry, add some moisture, wrap them back up and tie them. This top band actually helps hold the moisture in around the roots. It kind of makes a moisture barrier. If it's going to be longer than 2 weeks, maybe a month before you can get them planted, or maybe it's going to be next spring, or you've got extra trees, then go ahead and heal these trees in. They will actually keep until next year. So the healing in process, if you need to store these trees for more than a month, maybe 2 months, or maybe until next year, or you have extra seedlings left over that you want to store till next spring to plant, the process is called healing in. So what this entails is you want to try to find a place that's in the shade, not out in the direct sun, because they are going to actually wake up and start growing, and you want to kind of keep that growth to a minimum. So find a shady place off to the edge of your field or out in the trees. You're going to dig a V-shaped trench. You're going to lay the seedlings in there. Now separate the tag that's on it. There's going to be a band that holds those together. Go ahead and cut that, both the bottom and the top. Kind of spread them out a little bit. Lay your species tag on there, especially if you've got multiple species so you can tell what they are. Separate each of those bundles just a little bit. Fill that back over with soil, water them in a little bit, and then go ahead and put some type of mulch, some straw, something on top to help keep the trees a little bit cooler. It's also going to help keep the moisture in those roots all summer long. Again, they're going to wake up, they're going to grow, and then the following fall or winter, once they go completely dormant, then of course the soil is loose, it's going to be easy to dig them up, and then you can go ahead and plant them. All right, we can go ahead and stop that. So at that point, is there any questions, or you want me to go ahead and go on, just answer all the questions at the very end? So the question is, do we plant those in the fall? No, because the seedlings will come to you in the spring of the year. But the thing is, if you can't get them all planted in that spring, in a few weeks, you can go ahead and heal them in, and then in the fall, dig them back up when they go dormant and actually plant them at that point. Anything else? All right. So this next video is on the planting of the seedlings. There's 3 different ways we can plant these. So you can do it by hand with the planting bar, and by hand with the shovel with the planting bar, or the machine planter. Now the main thing with your planting, and I'll probably wait to after the video and I'll talk a little bit about it before we go on to the next one. But go ahead and play this one, please. Yeah, no, this one here. Thank you. And they start out looking identical. I apologize for that. That's how they made them. So here at this nursery, we have grown from its early days of growing nothing but shortleaf pine to now having approximately 70 different species of trees and shrubs that we grow every year. For planting seedlings, the ideal time is actually in the fall of the year. However, because we are a bare root seedling nursery, we have to wait till they go completely dormant before we can actually lift them. It'll put too much stress on the seedlings. So the other best time is in the spring, between mid-February to mid-May. That's the time that you can start picking them up, or you can have them shipped to you. Mid-February is the earliest time. So you can actually plant these in February. If the ground is thawed enough that you can get these in the ground, go ahead and plant them. Actually, sometimes the sooner you can get them planted, the better, because as we get some of these warm spring rains, those roots are waking up long before the top does, so it's getting itself established. If we get a lot of freezing thawing periods, the one thing you may check for is that we haven't gotten some frost heaving that hasn't pushed that seedling out of the ground, because those roots are not locked in yet. But otherwise, you can plant them as early as the ground is thawed out and ready for you to plant. So the shovel is used if you've ordered, say, 10, 25, maybe even 50 seedlings, 100 seedlings. You don't have a lot of them. You're going to be planting around your yard, maybe an old field that you've got the extra time to put into it. You got all day. Then use the shovel. It works great. Make a hole. You want to try to make it as deep as the roots are. You're going to be looking for that root collar. That's going to be the color change between the top and the roots again. If you can't see that, go about ½ inch above the top root. Use that as your guide. So you're going to put the seedling in the hole, kind of holding it the correct depth. Fill in a little bit of the dirt, pack it in. Fill a little bit more of the dirt in, pack it in. Now your seedling should be locked into place. Now you can fill in the rest of the dirt, pack it in, and go ahead and water it to help settle that dirt. If you can get enough dirt, create a little bit of a berm around the outer edge. And you want about a foot hole around that seedling. Put a berm up there. It's going to help capture some rainwater. If you have to water in the summertime, if we get a drought, that's going to help you to hold that moisture in as well. And it's always a good idea to put some mulch down. Wood chips work great. Sawdust works fine. Pine needles. Do something to help hold the moisture in for that seedling. Make it about 2 inches deep. You don't want to go much deeper than that, because in the wintertime, Mice will burrow into that and they're going to chew on the bark of that young seedling and it's going to kill it. You also don't want that mulch to be right up against the seedling, because if it is and it starts composting, the heat of the mulch, it can actually cook the seedling. Again, mulch is good when you've got just about a 10 to 20, maybe 100 seedlings. If you get more than that, so it's very hard to get out there and actually put the mulch around the seedlings. Use the double bar planting bar. If you've got several hundred trees, maybe 1,000 to plant, that's a perfect one to use. So basically the concept is you're going to put that straight down. You're going to pull it back towards you. When you do that, that opens up the top of the hole. It also opens up the bottom, almost like an hourglass shape. You're going to put the seedlings in there. Now at the seedlings, at the what's called the root collar, there's going to be a slight color change from the top of the seedling to the roots. So try to keep that as close to the ground level as possible. That's the depth that was growing in the beds of the nursery. If you plant it too deep, now the roots are at a drier zone in the soil, and you can put some stress on that new seedling. It's got enough stress as it is. Try to minimize the stress as possible. If you plant it too shallow, now you've got roots that are exposed. They're going to dry out and you're going to hurt the seedling anymore. So try to find that root collar. If you can't see the color change, look for the top root, go about ½ inch above that, and use that as your guide for planting those. So you're going to put the seedling in the hole. You're going to put the planting bar about 2 inches behind that first hole, put it straight down, pull it toward you first. That's going to close up the roots and kind of hold that seedling. Push it then forward. It's going to lock the seedling in place. Then go back about another 2 inches, do the same thing, and then use your heel to close that last hole. That's going to do two things. It's going to close that up so air isn't getting down there to where the roots are, cause them to dry out. It's also going to make just enough of a divot that's going to catch a little extra rainwater for that seedling. So third way of planting seedlings is with the machine planter. If you've got several thousand seedlings to plant, you don't want to do it with the shovel, you don't want to do it with the double bar, because you're going to be out there a long time. So machine planter works great. Many of our MDC offices have a machine planter that you can actually loan. Call ahead of time to schedule it to see if they have one or if they can get one from a neighboring office. Try to keep those roots moist with all your seedlings. Keep them in some water, keep them covered with some sphagnum moss that they come in, some type of moist material that's going to keep those roots moist while you're planting. It works great if you can get 3 people out there, 1 person on the tractor, 1 on the machine planter, and 1 walking behind you to kind of check your spacing. They can also kind of pack the seedlings in too as they're walking along. So an easy way to identify your spacing of your seedlings, if you're going slow enough, the person behind you can say plant each time. But if you're by yourself doing it, an easy way is to have a string behind you, full length about 8 feet. If you wanted a 10-foot spacing, make it a 10-foot string, 12-foot, 12-foot string, and so forth. Put a ribbon at the very end of it. So you know when that ribbon gets that last tree you just planted, you plant again. 2 feet further toward the tree planter, tie another ribbon. So when that first ribbon gets that seedling you just planted, you know you better be getting ready, getting that seedling down, get ready to release it as soon as that second flag hits that other seedling. There's no need to do anything after the trees are planted with the machine planting because you've got so many thousands of them. If you had a way to go in there and mulch them, that'd be great, but if you're planting 2, 3, 4, 10,000 seedlings, it's almost impossible to do that. The biggest trick with the machine planter, if you can, in the fall of the year, especially if it's a fescue field or real thick grass, get that brush hog down, try to spray it with some type of a grass killer ahead of time. If you can disc it up with like a 4-foot wide disc that up, it's going to loosen the soil a little bit so next spring it's ready to go. You can do it without all that, but it's just going to have more of the grass up against the tree. The sod is going to be a little bit harder for that cutter to cut through as well. And then the packing wheels can't pack as tightly. So first year care. Actually the first 2 years, I don't recommend any kind of fertilizer. These seedlings, when they're first lifted from the beds, there is some root loss that you will get. They're not going to be all the full hair roots that the seedling had while it was growing, because we actually have a machine that goes underneath the bed, lifts it up, breaks up the soil as it bounces those seedlings. So you'll lose a few of the hair roots. So the first thing that this tree needs to do for the first 2 years, especially the first year, is get those roots reestablished. Most of your fertilizers are high in nitrogen. So if you plant that seedling and then give it the fertilizer, because it's high in nitrogen, it's going to cause that tree to have a lot more top growth, and it may not have the roots to sustain that. Now if we get into a dry period, that seedling is going to be stressed and you could probably lose that seedling. The only kind of fertilizer that I recommend for the first year when you first plant that seedling is a root stimulator. It's going to help that seedling put out new roots, get its foundation established first. If it's got a good foundation, it'll have a good top. Then after 2 years, if you want to fertilize it, use a general all-purpose fertilizer. And it's better to go on the light side than the heavier side. You can actually burn these seedlings. So err on the side of caution and do it a little bit lighter. All right, so a little bit more on that. Again, that site prep beforehand is very important. Again, if you're only doing, 10, 25, 100 seedlings, not a big deal because you can keep the grass and the weeds and so forth away from those seedlings, especially with that mulch or a weed barrier around it. But if you're doing several hundred, and you're getting out there planting, you can't really do that ahead of time, you're going to have issues with all that grass kind of taking over the tree and actually causing more harm to it and probably killing it. I know it takes a bit more work to do the site prep and get the plans done and so forth, but if you're going to do that correctly, you're going to get those trees established. And if those trees are dying after 2 or 3 years, we haven't gained anything because they haven't got the roots really established. They're not doing any of the stream bank stabilization that we're wanting. So we haven't really gained anything. We want these trees and shrubs to survive 10, 20, 50, 100 years, depending on the life of that particular species. So questions on this point at this time? Okay. Where can our volunteers find these videos? So good point. So if you go to our MDC website, and then go under trees and plants and ordering seedlings, both those videos are located right there. All right. All right, we'll go on to the next video. The next video is basically just a quick overview. It's going to show actually the entire process of lifting the seedlings, getting them into the building, getting them graded, and out the door to you. So if we can go to that next and last video. Oh, not this one.
Hey, Mike.
Yes.
This is Brian Waldrop here. Listen,
Yeah.
there's another Tila S comment or ask a question at 613. So you plant them in the fall. It's when you were digging between the two pine trees, covering them up in separated bundles.
Yeah, that's actually not planting the seed. It's actually called healing them in. So if you can't get them all planted, maybe something happens, unfortunate death in the family, if something comes up that, hey, I can't get all these planted this spring, what do you do with them? You don't want to throw them away. You can heal them in, and they'll actually hold in that position until the next fall. They will still grow a little bit, but in the shade and all, it's going to kind of keep their growth to a minimum. And then the fall of the year, you can dig those back up, and then go ahead and plant them where you want in the next winter or next fall.
Thank you.
And one of the things that one of the videos brought out too is the fact that because here in Missouri or the Ozarks, Missouri, once the ground is thawed, because these seedlings are completely dormant, that's why you can go ahead and plant them in the early February, March, that time period. A lot of folks think they have to wait till after the last frost to get these planted. That's not the case because these trees are dormant. So it's just like they're growing out in the woods. They don't have any leaves on. They're completely dormant. Again, the main thing you have to watch for, if we get a lot of that freezing thawing period, it can push that seedling up out of the ground because it doesn't have the roots established. But the sooner you can get these trees in the ground, once that ground thaws, you're good to go to get these planted. Okay. And this video may not have the volume. So this is the actual lifting process. This is the tree lifter. There's a blade on that goes underneath these beds. They're about 4 inches high. And it actually lifts the trees up and bounces the soil off the roof, but the seedlings kind of laying on top of the ground. This keeps the majority of the good soil out in the beds instead of coming to the building. So you lift these up and get in those tubs, and then get them on the cart. This tractor and trailer makes a continuous loop all day long from the field to the cooler. We want to get these trees in the cooler as quickly as possible so we can get them unloaded, get them on racks, and then get them wet down. We want to keep those roots nice and wet and just start cooling the seedlings down and getting ready for grading process. And this is we have 5 bays here. They all stay about 35, 36 degrees. So this is the grading process. So every seedling gets looked at to make sure it meets our 4 standards. It has to be from the root collar to the tip of the bud, a certain height depending on the species. That root collar has to be a certain diameter. Then it has to have a good healthy root and a good healthy top. If it meets all 4 of those criteria, they count them out in bundles of 5 and put them on the conveyor belt. They'll go down then and then be bundled up in either bundles of 10 or 25s. If it doesn't meet our standards, then it goes to the compost pile. This is the folks in the cooler. They're taking those tags that have your orders when they want them to go out the door. They're going to fill those, put them on the conveyor belt. They're looking at them. And then you're watching this lady here at the window. She's checking the tag again, making sure we have the right species and the right amount on the order to be wrapped up. Of course, we ship out approximately 16,000 packages every year. We do about another 10,000 packages where people pick them up. We do occasionally make mistakes. We're human, but it's usually no more than about 50 packages a year. So when you're doing that many packages every year and you only mess up about maybe a couple of dozen to 50, that's not too bad. We used to be able to ship these out like this with the open top packages. But then 4 years ago, the contract with the UPS changed, and now we do have to put them in the cardboard boxes. But this is how we used to ship them out. Everything is barcoded now. So on that package is your order that has your species that are in there, and then the barcode that she scans, and it links with the UPS company, and then prints off the shipping tag. Back when we could ship them out this way with just the open top packages, we would do 1 to 2 UPS trailers per week. Now we have to put them in boxes. It does take up a little bit more room. We ship out anywhere from 2 to 3, sometimes even 4 tractor trailer loads every week. So there's the actual shipping tag. The packing label that comes on that. That's what that is contained inside that bundle. All right, next slide, please. So the ordering process is kind of the new things that have changed. We used to 23 to 24 seedling orders, season orders all sent to the Stream Team Coordinator Group for approval. So when you put your order in before, it would go to our approval category. Those would not get approved until I got those sent to the Stream Team Group. They would approve them, and then I would approve them to go into the system. So it actually didn't allocate any seedlings to you until that approval was done. I believe it was last year where the planting plans were required. And then, of course, there's some new changes that are coming on board for this year as well that Hannah will be talking about, or Rebecca or somebody. So with that, that's the last next slide, and that should be the last question. There's my contact information. If you do need to get a hold of me, my email and my phone number. So, and that is actually the old truck that used to be used for delivering seedlings when they used to deliver them across the state. That is Bob Danson, our first MDC nursery supervisor back in the 1940s. So, any questions? Hannah, I guess I'll turn it back over to you.
All right, so all of the a lot of the information that we're going to cover today is available on our website. And Pam, if you could put the link to the activity page in the chat, that would be helpful. So a lot of the information we're covering is already up on the website, but we are going to go through kind of some more detailed steps of what it actually looks like to use the Stream Team application or database to put the orders in. And the webinar is being recorded, so you can always refer back to this later if you don't catch something or you run into a problem later. So just to orient us to what needs to happen for you to order your trees, you first need to make a plan for what you're going to do with those trees, how they're going to be planted. You're going to submit that plan to us in the form of an activity report. We then, after we get your planning activity report, you can place your order through the same place, through the same database for your trees. And then we're kind of skipping a few steps of you getting the trees and you planting the trees. But then once they're planted, we ask that you submit another activity report back to us for your planting time. So we're going to walk through these steps. So first, to make a plan, the appropriate projects for getting your free tree seedlings are stream bank stabilization and or riparian corridor planting, wildlife habitat improvement, or greenway, stormwater catchment, and watershed runoff areas. If you need help making this plan, we have a couple of suggestions for you to help you make your plan for planting. So we do have a guide to streamside planting on the Stream Team website, which you can also find in that link that Pam just put in the chat. And that also lists the trees that are available for you to order. And then we also suggest that you contact a local forester or private land conservationist. This is also, the link to this is also on that same page, and you can put in your county and find your local MDC contacts. And then, of course, you should always obtain landowner permission if you're trying to plant on land that is not your own. We also have a form that you can use to get the landowner permission if you find that useful for your project. Okay, so once you have your plan, the next step is to submit your plan to us. So to be able to do that, you do have to have an account in our new database. So if you have been with us for a while and haven't gotten your account switched over to the new database, just let us know and we can give you your a number to help you link your old account to this new database. And if you're newer to the program and you haven't had an account with us before, you can go ahead and just create a new account in this database. And the database is linked on our website as well. I think the activities page has it linked in a couple of places, but you can also get through it on the tab that says electronic reporting. And so once you have logged into the database, you're going to want to submit an activity report. So you can find the activity report button on the left-hand side in the menu. You'll click that and then you'll click Add New Activity Report. And then you want to fill out your identification and contact information as usual with any activity report that you submit to us. And then for your activity type, you want to select planning for events dash planting trees. And I believe this is currently listed as the very first activity type at the top of the list. So you want to make sure that you pick this one specifically. There is a regular planning for events activity type, but you want to make sure that you select the one that specifically says planning for events, planting trees. And then on your plan, there are a couple of pieces of information that are required. You have to submit this information with your plan for your order to be accepted. So you want to make sure that you have a date that you plan to plant your trees. So we'll talk here in a second about when you can get those trees picked up. So based on when you're going to list when you're going to have your trees picked up or shipped, you want to make sure that you have a planting date set up for after that. You want to include in your plan how you plan to keep your trees watered or how you want to care or plan to care for your trees. And then we need to have a map or a description of your planting area. And then, as I mentioned, we also need to know when you will pick up or have trees shipped. And I realized right now I haven't even talked about dates yet. So the ordering window is August 1st to August 31st for right now. We will have a second ordering window in February, but in February, the supplies might be more limited because it's the same supplies the whole time. So when we're hitting that end period, there may be some trees that have run out at that point. So the ordering periods again are August and then again in February. And when you place your orders, you can only select from these dates shown here on when you want to either pick up your trees or have them shipped to you. So you won't be able to do it until starting halfway through February. And then you have the option of going basically halfway through February through halfway through May. So you want to make sure on your planning for tree planting activity report, you put which week you want to either pick up your trees or have them shipped to you. And then you want to make sure that you also put your planting date at a time after you have received your trees. And this time period table is also linked on our website on that same page. So after you submit your planning activity, you are now able to order your trees. So in the same place, in that same database, under the activity report button on the left-hand side in that menu, there's a button that says ordering activity supplies. So you'll click on that and it'll bring you to the ordering form. And for this ordering form, it is important that you fill out the top information basically in left to right order. So you want to make sure you put your team name and then your name up at the top first. And then you'll put your activity date. This is the activity date of your planning activity that you just submitted. You'll hit yes, you have submitted an activity report. And then you'll select that planning for events, planting trees activity. It'll be a drop down. And because you put that date in for your planning activity, it should be the one that you're selecting from that drop down. So you want to make sure that you do that in order. Specifically, activity date, then yes, then the drop down to pick your activity. And then for the rest of the ordering form, you'll see the seedlings are listed as seedling dash and then their species. So they're all listed together under seedling. You can go onto that ordering page now and just look and see what is available to you. And as you noticed, Mike had mentioned this in his videos that they're either in bundles of 10 or they're in bundles of 25. So the minimum order is an order of 10 for one species. And if you want more than 10, they have to come in multiples of 25. So you'll see kind of the options here is you can start with 10, that's listed at the top here. And then if you want anything more than 10, it's going to be in multiples of 25. And then you want to make sure that you get an order confirmation. So when you submit your order through the database, you should get a little pop-up that says success, activity supply order successfully submitted. And then you'll also get an email. The email will say that your order has been received. So if you do not get those things, it is likely that your order didn't go through. And you might want to contact us at that point and we can help you troubleshoot why your order didn't go through. But you want to look for those confirmations. The box will pop up right in the database right after you submit it, and then you should get an email as well. Okay, so at this point, you've put it in. You'll get your trees based on the week that you tell us that you want to either pick them up or get them shipped. And then these are kind of, we skipped some steps here of you getting your trees, you care for them, you plant them, you care for them after they've been planted, and then you'll submit one more activity report to us to report that planting activity back to us. So it's very similar to what we did before. So you'll go back, you'll select activity report, add new activity report, and then this information is the same as before. You just fill in your name and your contact information. And then this time you're going to say planted trees. So we did the planting before, and now we're reporting that we actually planted the trees. And this information is all just fillable boxes, so you don't have to remember like what's required. It says it there on the form. But this is what we're going to ask of you is the date that you planted the trees, how many people were there, how much time was spent on it, how many trees were planted. There's a spot for activity description and location information. And then you can also submit photos to us as well. And we want to make sure that this is getting reported back to us and that we're getting this time counted for planting trees. So if you miss this final step, it may prevent you from getting orders of trees in the future. So just remember to do this final activity report to us and submit your tree planting time. All right. I know that was a lot of information. It is recorded and we are going to make this video public. So You'll be able to refer back to it. It is outlined out on the website, but less detail specific on the exact steps in the database. But at this point, if anybody has any questions for us, or for Mike as well, I'm going to stop sharing my screen so I can actually see. We have a couple of other Stream Team staff here as well that can help answer questions, Brian and Becca. So feel free to put those questions in the chat at this point. And then
And one thing, Hannah, if I
yes.
can, real quick.
Mhm.
So if you do submit your order, it goes in, and that seedling that you want or species is sold out, you are on a waiting list. And then if we run long on that number, we, as time allows, if time allows, we'll send out either email or postcard, whichever you've selected for notification, saying, hey, these are available. If you want them, give us a call and we'll get them added to your order. And that is on a first come, first served basis. So the sooner you get that email and or letter, give us a call if you're still wanting those, and we get those added to your order.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you.
Mhm.
So I'm going to read some of the questions out loud and then let you guys do the answering. So Tina asked, what are the best trees for river and creek stabilization?
Yeah, so part of that depends, of course. There's the list of seedlings that are approved for Stream Team. Secondly, it really depends on your site. What's the best one? It may be too that you may have to get like somebody out to look at it. If you've got some severe erosion taking place, you may want to put in a cedar tree revetment, and at that point down those lower slopes, some cottonwood or willow cuttings, and then going back from the stream, different species of bottomland species. When I was a field forester, I always like to take a look at the surrounding area to see what's there naturally. Make sure you get some of those in there. They're going to do the best down that location, and then try to mix in a few additional species that you're wanting to add to it. But your bottomland species, obviously no pines. Pines don't like to have their feet wet. Like the pitch lob, like can tolerate a little bit of moisture, but most of your bottom areas get way too much moisture. The pines will not do well down there. So that's why you need to really watch what you're putting by species down those bottom areas.
Okay, and then Michael says, I have about 200 feet of stream that runs through ELEC power cut. They continually spray the trees in the easement. What can I plant in the area to stabilize the stream bank?
Yeah, so really what you need to do is get a hold of the electric company, let them know that, hey, this is what's a project that's going on. You're going to have to put shrubs, trees that grow very short. Obviously, you don't want to plant any oaks or anything down there. They're going to get in the power lines and they're not going to want those. So getting more of the shrubs like, witch hazel, some 9-bark, stuff like that, that maybe 12, 10 feet tall, 15 feet tall is the max. They're not going to get in the power line, and let them know this is what I've planted here. It's for this purpose, but make sure you let them know that and say, we need to, keep from spraying this particular area, and work with your electric company on that.
Okay, and then Josette asked, when does the activity pop up in the ordering activity? And I can answer this one. So Josette, it won't be there until after you submit your planning for activities first. And then once you submit that, it should be in the drop-down box when you go to the ordering page. And then I think Tina's clarifying that the shipment will be delivered in February if ordered in August. So yes, even though we're accepting orders now, they're not going to be available for pickup or shipment until mid-February at the earliest.
Correct. And then with that, if you put in there a certain date that you plan on doing your planting, I don't know how you guys want to do it, but obviously things happen. Things have to be postponed. Maybe the trees need to be shipped a week earlier, a week or two later. If you let us know about 2 or 3 weeks in advance, we can change that in our system. But once the tags are printed, it's almost too late. So we're okay if a change has to be made, as long as you guys are okay as far as the activity report goes. If something comes up that you need to delay or move the seedling shipment up a little bit early, we're okay with that here, as long as you give us about a 2 or 3 week notice.
Okay, Tila says, do you have to be a member of Stream Team to receive these, or do you accept orders from conservation-focused 501c3s as well? And I'll say, Tila, it is very easy to become a stream team and that your organization can become one themselves. And then you would be able to be eligible for these trees. And also mention that the nursery does also sell these trees. So if you miss the window and you don't want to wait until February and you want to purchase trees, or if somebody who's not a stream team member wants to purchase trees, that is also an option.
Yep, and that the ordering process starts September 1st. It will come on sometime after midnight. It is a random time now. So sometime after midnight on September 1st is when the system will go live.
Okay, and then Corey says that I have to change when I want my seedlings delivered. Do I call Brian concerning the activity report I submitted? Brian, I'll let you answer that one. Okay, yeah, go ahead. Okay, Brian is either muted or unavailable right now. So yes, Corey, you can just contact one of us and we can make sure that your activity report gets updated. Does anybody else have any questions? Kelly also put her extension in if anybody, Kelly is kind of the first eyes on the tree order, so you can also reach out to Kelly. All right. Does anybody else have any questions or any of the panelists have anything to add to the conversation?
I'd like to just add, if at any point you have any questions about is the appropriate species to plant for your specific situation, the tips that Mike gave are really good, but you can always reach out to the local forester staff through your regional office. So you can either call the office or you can go on our website and figure out who the contact is for your region.
Yeah, but then if there's certain species that you're wanting that aren't approved, you can go ahead and go online and order the seedlings. You will have to pay for them, but you can, and actually go ahead and order them and pay for them separately from your stream team order.
Okay, well, it looks like we might be at the end here if nobody else puts any last minute questions. But we will get this webinar posted, the recording posted, so that you can come back to it later on if you need to. And we'll send a follow-up email with that recording sometime this week, hopefully tomorrow. And thank you everyone for joining us tonight. And thank you, Mike, for agreeing to come and present to us. I think it was really, really great information that you shared. And hopefully everybody can get their tree orders in.
Thank you very much. And the nursery staff and I are here also in case we can help in any way. Just give us a call as well. So thank you all.
All right, thanks. Have a good night, everybody.